The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes was Eleanor Harper standing in Nathan's bedroom doorway with a red emergency key tag hanging from one hand. Behind her, Nathan's younger brother had stopped mid-step. Their aunt looked at the rumpled bed, then at Nathan, who was asleep on the carpet beside it in yesterday's white shirt and dark trousers. I was sitting upright beneath the covers, still wearing my burgundy evening dress. Nathan's black jacket was around my shoulders. Eleanor's face went still. "Tell me," she said, loud enough to wake him, "that this woman is not about to become the most expensive mistake of your life." Nathan pushed himself up on one elbow. He looked at me before he looked at his mother. That was when I realized the danger was no longer what they thought had happened. It was what he might be willing to deny. 16 hours earlier, the Harper Grand had looked untouchable. The hotel rose above Midtown Manhattan in limestone, brass, and warm window light while a storm gathered over the river. Inside, florists carried white roses through the lobby. Technicians tested the ballroom rigging. Donors arrived early for the Harper Foundation's charity weekend and smiled as if cameras were already pointed at them. I was there because elegant events fail in inelegant ways. A ballroom can lose power. A keynote speaker can disappear. A donor can have a medical emergency 3 minutes before a live broadcast. My job was to find the weak point before it became the story everyone remembered. For 3 years, I had run crisis logistics for museums, hospitals, and nonprofit events. I was 26 and good enough at the work that most people stopped asking my age once something went wrong. The foundation had hired me after the previous year's gala ended with 200 guests trapped in a service corridor and a board member giving an interview beside a leaking pipe. Nathan Harper had opposed bringing in an outsider. He told me that within 5 minutes of our first meeting. "You'll duplicate work my team already does," he said. He stood at the end of a long conference table, jacket buttoned, expression controlled. At 32, Nathan was the chief operating officer of Harper Hotels and the expected successor to the family group. He had dark brown hair, gray eyes, and the kind of composure that made people lower their voices around him. He had earned more of his position than the magazines admitted. After his father's illness, Nathan had taken over 3 failing properties, renegotiated their labor contracts without mass layoffs, and spent 2 years trying to keep them open. The employees trusted him more than the board did. That made his loyalty to the family system understandable, though not automatically admirable. I closed the risk binder in front of me. "Then I'll be easy to prove unnecessary." His mouth shifted, almost a smile. His mother sat to his right in ivory silk and pearls. Eleanor Harper chaired the foundation board and spoke with the calm confidence of someone accustomed to having the final word. "We are not anticipating a crisis," she said. "No one schedules one." 20 minutes later, I stopped a junior technician from hanging a lighting rig over the stage with the wrong load rating. The ballroom manager insisted the paperwork had been approved. I asked for the stamped inspection sheet. No one could produce it. Nathan removed the rig from service at once. Eleanor waited until the staff had left. "Ms. Vale, the Harper name has survived a century without public panic. Please remember that your role is prevention, not theater. My role is to keep people safe. Those are not always the same thing." Nathan glanced at his mother but did not challenge her. I noticed the silence and filed it away with the other risks. By late afternoon, rain streaked the lobby windows. The forecast had called for a passing storm. The sky had other plans. I spent 2 hours walking the property with a tablet and a radio. The Harper Grand was beautiful in the way old institutions often are. Everything visible had been restored, while problems behind walls waited for a more convenient budget. On the 21st floor, an emergency door failed to latch. Below the ballroom, a camera feed flickered twice. At the east elevators, one card reader took 4 seconds longer than the others to accept staff credentials. I reported all 3 issues. The security supervisor logged the door and blamed the reader on weather interference. At 6, I found Nathan in the winter garden beneath a glass roof rattling with rain. The citrus trees around him cast thin shadows across the tile. "You're looking for me," he said. "I'm looking for someone authorized to shut down the east elevators." "That sounds expensive." "It may be less expensive than leaving them open." I showed him the access log. A credential assigned to a former systems contractor had been rejected 3 times near the loading dock, then accepted at a service entrance. 11 minutes later, the same credential registered on the 21st floor. Nathan read the line twice. "Security says old IDs sometimes remain in the cache. Does the cache walk through the building?" He called the security desk and ordered the credential disabled, the east elevators placed on manual control, and the loading entrances checked. He did not argue for the sake of appearing in charge. "Manual control will slow arrivals," he said after ending the call. "My mother will notice. She notices everything that costs money. She notices everything that looks like uncertainty." "And you?" His gaze moved toward the hotel below us. "I notice what happens when uncertainty reaches the payroll." The answer made his resistance easier to understand. He was not protecting only marble and a family name. 3 Harper properties were surviving month to month while he negotiated new financing. Every precaution had a cost, and every delayed repair created another risk. He had spent years balancing both until the distinction between duty and compromise had blurred. "That still doesn't make the elevator safe," I said. "No," he called security again and confirmed the shutdown before turning back to me. Thunder rolled over the roof. "You were right about the lighting rig," he said. "I know." This time he smiled. "Do you always make compliments difficult?" "Only when they arrive disguised as surprise." For a moment, the storm and the empty garden made the hotel feel far away. Then his phone vibrated, and the moment closed before either of us had to decide what it meant. At 7:30, the ballroom opened. I changed into the burgundy dress I kept for formal events, a clean-lined silk gown with long sleeves and a small gold pendant at my throat. In the mirror, my chestnut brown hair fell in soft waves over one shoulder, and my warm brown eyes looked steadier than I felt. The dress was elegant enough for donors and practical enough to move quickly in. Nathan stood near the stage in a black tuxedo, speaking to 3 lenders whose signatures mattered to the next morning's board vote. His eyes moved to me when I entered, then returned to the conversation. The look lasted only a second, but it was long enough to make me aware of the distance between us. The first hour passed smoothly. The quartet played. Champagne moved through the room. Eleanor greeted donors by name and remembered exactly which personal detail made each of them feel important. I watched the doors. At 8:42, the lights dimmed for the foundation film. At 8:43, the east elevator stopped responding. My radio filled with overlapping voices. "Power fluctuation on 20. Service lift 3 is stalled. Guest access panel is offline." Then the ballroom doors opened, and a man in a soaked black coat stepped inside wearing a staff badge. I recognized him from the loading entrance. His name was Caleb Ward, the systems contractor whose credential had appeared in the access log. Security had escorted him off the property earlier after an argument about unpaid invoices. He did not look at the stage. He looked toward Eleanor. I crossed the floor without running. The film was still playing, and most of the room remained turned toward the screen. Nathan stood beside the stage. I caught his attention, touched 2 fingers to my radio, and pointed once toward Caleb. Nathan moved toward his mother without looking directly at the man. Security began closing in from the opposite side. I reached Caleb first. "Sir, the staff entrance is on the other side of the ballroom." Rain ran from his hair onto his collar. His right hand was inside his coat. I'm here to see Mrs. Harper. She's unavailable. She knows why I'm here. A server passed behind me carrying a tray. I shifted left, blocking his direct path to Eleanor while leaving the service corridor open behind him. It was not bravery. It was geometry. You can wait with me, I said. His eyes moved toward security. He pulled his hand from his coat. The room seemed to contract around the movement. He was holding a thick envelope. He threw it at my feet. Ask her why she buried the inspection reports. Then the ballroom went dark. Someone screamed. The film cut out. The quartet stopped in the middle of a note. Red emergency lights appeared along the floor, but the backup generator did not fully engage. Caleb ran toward the service corridor. Security followed him. I stepped onto the low platform beside the stage and reached for the microphone before remembering it had no power. Please remain where you are, I called. The emergency lighting is active. We'll open the west exit in sections. A woman near the front began breathing too quickly. Her partner tried to pull her toward the doors. I came down from the platform and crouched beside her. Look at me. You're not trapped. We're going to move in a moment, but first I need you to breathe with me. Behind us, a banquet manager pulled at the west doors. They did not open. The electronic lock had failed closed. I crossed to the wall panel and removed the decorative brass plate covering the mechanical release. The edge caught my palm, but the lever moved. The doors opened. Cool air entered the ballroom. West side first, I called. Slowly. Leave the glasses on the tables. Nathan reached me. What do you need? Staff at both doors. Keep everyone on this floor until the elevators are verified. Send someone to shut the kitchen gas if the generator fails again. He repeated the orders into his radio and carried an elderly donor's chair into the west gallery when her cane slipped. For the next 12 minutes, the Harper Grand became a building full of people who needed directions. We moved guests into the gallery, counted tables, and kept the east corridor closed. Across the ballroom, Eleanor bent to retrieve Caleb's envelope. She slipped it beneath her shawl before anyone else reached it. The chandeliers flickered back to life. An alarm began pulsing somewhere above us. My radio crackled. Unauthorized entry on 21. Guest room accessed during outage. Individual detained in security office. Which room? Static answered first. Then the room number. Mine. I felt a cold, exact anger. Nathan heard the message and came toward me. I need to finish the head count, I said before he could speak. We're at 198. My team can verify the last two. Your team missed Caleb. You're right. Your room is still a crime scene. He was not ordering me now. He was stating the part one did not want to face. I looked over the gallery. The woman I had helped was breathing normally. Staff had formed two clear lines at the exits. The immediate danger had passed. 4 minutes, I said. He nodded. 4. Eleanor appeared at his shoulder. What exactly did you keep in your room? She asked. I don't know what was taken. Why would Caleb choose it? He didn't, I said. She looked at me. Caleb was in the ballroom when my room was opened. Nathan's attention sharpened. Eleanor's fingers tightened around the envelope under her shawl. What are you holding? He asked. Material that belongs to the hotel. Give it to me. Not here. She walked away before he could answer. That was when I understood the security breach and the envelope were part of the same story, but not in the way everyone would assume. The 21st floor smelled of wet plaster and ozone. Security had closed the corridor. My room door stood open with yellow evidence tape across it. Inside, my suitcase had been emptied onto the bed. The lining of my laptop case had been cut. My handwritten notes lay across the carpet, and the bathroom mirror was cracked. Nothing valuable was missing. I checked the folder on the desk. The printed access logs were gone. Nathan stood beside the security officer photographing the room. "What time was the door opened?" he asked. The officer checked his tablet. 8:46. Emergency management credential. Caleb was visible in the ballroom at 8:46, I said. The officer looked uncomfortable. Yes. Whose credential? The system only shows the management tier. The individual code was suppressed during the outage. Convenient, I said. I had emailed the logs to myself at 6:12, so whoever entered the room had taken paper, not evidence. That distinction did not make the invasion feel smaller. Nathan turned to the officer. Preserve every override record. No one edits or exports the file without legal present. He crouched near the desk and pointed to a small black mark beside the lock. Master key housing? The officer nodded. Emergency mechanical override. Someone had used both electronic management access and a physical key. I opened the desk drawer where I had left a duplicate event schedule. It was still there, along with cash, jewelry, and a spare phone. Whoever entered had known exactly what to remove. Only 4 people should have emergency keys at that level, Nathan said. The general manager, the chief engineer, the security supervisor, and my mother. The officer looked toward the corridor rather than answer. Nathan's face hardened. You can't stay here, he said. I had reached that conclusion. The East Wing is locked down, the storm has closed several streets, and every verified room is occupied. I'll find another hotel. Someone entered your room because you noticed the access pattern. I don't think you should travel alone tonight. The wording mattered. He was offering a judgment, not issuing a command. My suite has a private service vestibule and a bedroom with a manual lock, he continued. You can take the bedroom. You keep that key. Security controls the outer door. And where will you be? In the sitting room. That is still your suite. Yes. I looked past him at the scattered pages on the carpet. If anyone sees me enter, your family will turn it into something else. A tiredness crossed his face. They may. All right, I said. Then the rules are clear. You lock the bedroom from inside. I don't enter unless you ask. You keep the only bedroom key. The outer suite stays under a security guard and requires a separate emergency management key. And you do not turn sleeping badly into a public demonstration of character. I wasn't planning to invite an audience. Despite everything, I almost smiled. Nathan's suite occupied the hotel's northwest corner. The outer door opened from a private service vestibule watched by a camera and, that night, a uniformed guard. Inside were a sitting room, a small dining area, and a bedroom with its own manual lock. The suite was less extravagant than I expected. Dark wood, cream walls, shelves of architecture books, a piano with worn keys. Rain moved across the windows in silver sheets. Nathan handed me the bedroom key and showed me the lock. Do you want anything brought from your room? My coat. My overnight bag, if security clears it. And a small case from the nightstand. His gaze dropped to the pendant at my throat. You're wearing the necklace. The case holds a note. He did not ask who had written it. A female officer delivered my coat and overnight bag 10 minutes later. The pendant case was missing. I checked the bag twice, though I knew exactly where I had packed it. The missing note made the room invasion feel personal in a way the stolen logs had not. Those pages were work. The small case held the last sentence my father had written to me. I touched the necklace before I could stop myself. Important? Nathan asked. My father left a note inside before he died. I'll ask them to keep searching. They have a larger investigation. This is part of it. He loosened his tie, removed his tuxedo jacket, and placed it over the back of a chair. You were extraordinary downstairs, he said. I looked at him. That isn't surprise, he added. It's an admission that I underestimated you. Better. You saw Caleb, opened the failed exit, and kept the room from panicking. I also asked you to close the east elevators earlier. You did. I should have acted sooner. His answer was direct enough that I had nothing sharp to return. A knock sounded at the outer door. Nathan checked the monitor. Eleanor stood in the vestibule with the guard behind her. Do you want me to send her away? He asked. No. I want the envelope. He opened the outer door. Eleanor entered carrying it in one hand. Her gaze passed over my coat on the sofa and Nathan's jacket on the chair. You work quickly, she said. I was moved here because someone used a management override to enter my room. Eleanor placed the envelope on the table. Then we should discuss what caused this before you draw conclusions. Inside were maintenance reports, vendor emails, and photographs of damaged electronic locks. Several pages were 6 months old. Caleb had warned the hotel that a software update created a vulnerability in the master credential system. He had recommended replacing several control units and restricting emergency overrides until the work was complete. The approval line on the delayed replacement carried Eleanor's initials. Nathan read the page. You knew. I knew a contractor wanted an expensive extension. You terminated him after he filed this. I terminated him after he threatened to disrupt the refinancing. I turned another page. Were these reports given to hotel security? They were reviewed. By whom? Eleanor looked at me. You are a consultant. Do not mistake access for authority. And don't mistake a title for immunity. Her expression cooled. The vulnerability was theoretical, she said. Tonight, an unstable former contractor entered a private event using a stolen credential. If we release these documents before the board vote, the lenders may suspend the refinancing. 3 hotels could close. Hundreds of jobs depend on that agreement. Nathan had spent 2 years negotiating the deal. The board was scheduled to vote after the charity breakfast. Without his certification as chief operating officer, the lenders could not rely on management's safety disclosures. If he admitted the reports had been withheld, the vote would stop, the succession would be questioned, and the family would blame him for every consequence that followed. Did you tell me? He asked. I protected the transaction. You let me certify that our access systems had passed review. I let you do what was necessary. I watched the realization settle over him. This was not only a safety failure. His mother had used his name to make a statement she knew was incomplete. Eleanor turned to me. You will sign a confidentiality agreement tonight. No. It is already part of your consulting contract. Not for concealed safety information. You are not a lawyer. No. I'm the person who opened the door your staff could not open. She stepped closer. Do you have digital copies of the access logs? Yes. Her attention sharpened. Nathan noticed. Why do you care about her copies? He asked. Because internal security data cannot be distributed without review. Someone entered her room and removed the paper version. That is an allegation. The access record shows a management override while Caleb was in the ballroom. For the first time, Eleanor paused. Nathan picked up the suite phone and called the security desk. Pull the vestibule camera outside Lumi's room. Check everyone who used an emergency key between 8:45 and 8:50. Suspend their access until legal arrives. His mother's voice hardened. You are escalating a misunderstanding. I'm preserving evidence. There will be no statement tonight, she said. The board votes in the morning. Nathan put down the phone. The documents stay here. Nathan? They stay. Eleanor held his gaze. This hotel has survived worse than a storm. People who confuse one dramatic night with moral authority rarely understand what it costs to keep an institution alive. I lowered my voice. Then it's fortunate I don't need this institution to tell me who I am. She left without answering. Nathan remained beside the table. I'm sorry, he said. For her threat? For opposing you, for acting too late, and for signing a certification I did not verify deeply enough. I took the glass of water he offered. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. It was honest, but the morning would not wait for him. If you disclose this, he said, the lenders can suspend the deal. 3 properties may run out of operating cash before spring. If you don't, you become part of the concealment. I know. My father owned a restaurant, I said. 40 seats, 1 narrow kitchen, and a boiler that failed inspection during the worst winter we ever had. Replacing it cost almost everything he had saved. He closed for 12 days anyway. What happened? We survived. Barely. Rain moved down the glass. He never used the story to make himself sound noble, I continued. He said a business doesn't become ethical when the decision is affordable. Nathan looked at the reports. And the note in your pendant case? I touched the necklace. It says, choose the thing you can still defend when the room is empty. Before he could answer, the lights went out again. The suite fell silent except for the rain. Nathan's hand closed around my forearm, then released it immediately. Sorry. It's fine. A strip of emergency lighting came on near the floor. Nathan found a flashlight and tested the outer door, the bedroom lock, and the landline. The storm had interrupted the private vestibule circuit, sealing the outer door until the system reset. For several minutes, neither of us could leave. Nathan stood by the window with his phone held up for a signal. Without the ballroom, the staff, or his mother in front of him, he looked exhausted. You can sit down, I said. I'm fine. That answer has lost credibility. He laughed under his breath and sat at the opposite end of the sofa. The flashlight rested between us, aimed at the ceiling. Why did you really oppose hiring me? I asked. Because the board already thinks I need supervision. Bringing in an outside consultant made it look as if I couldn't manage my own hotel. And now? Now I know I was protecting an image built on information I didn't have. That is what inherited systems do. They teach you to defend the structure before you examine it. He looked at me. What did you inherit? Bills. A good tomato soup recipe. A low tolerance for men who confuse authority with personality. That last one has been obvious. Useful, though. His eyes moved to the pendant. I'll find the note. You may not be able to. I know. Thunder broke over the roof. I touched the pendant again. You're afraid of storms, he said. I respect structural glass. That was not an answer. I don't owe you all of them. No, you don't. He accepted the boundary without pushing, and the room felt easier afterward. His attention dropped to my hand. You're bleeding. The brass emergency plate had left a thin cut across my palm. Nathan brought a first aid kit from the bathroom and stopped in front of me. May I? I placed my hand in his. He cleaned the cut carefully. His collar was open, his sleeves rolled once, and his fingers were warm against my wrist. When he looked up, the distance between us felt smaller than it was. His gaze dropped to my mouth. Lumi. I could have leaned forward. Instead, I closed my fingers over the bandage. Not tonight. He released me at once. Not tonight. The attraction remained. So did the boundary. The power returned a minute later. At 11:40, Nathan received a call from Hotel Legal. The footage outside my room showed the same night security supervisor who had dismissed my warning earlier entering with an emergency key while Caleb was still visible in the ballroom. The supervisor had been detained in the security office. My printed access logs were found inside a locked incident cabinet under his control. Nathan put the call on speaker. Who authorized him? He asked. The lawyer hesitated. He says Mrs. Harper told him to secure every internal record connected to the breach before outside consultants could distribute it. He admits cutting open the laptop case and searching the luggage for additional copies. His equipment case struck the bathroom mirror. Eleanor had not told him to destroy the logs. She had told him to remove them from my room without my knowledge and keep them under internal control. The distinction might matter to lawyers. It did not matter to me. Preserve the logs, the footage, and the key record, Nathan said. Send copies to outside counsel and the city inspector tonight. You understand that will trigger mandatory notice? Yes. When the call ended, he looked at me. That will reach the board before breakfast. It should. He nodded once. At midnight, security returned my pendant case. The folded note was still inside. My relief was immediate and embarrassing. Nathan looked toward the rain, giving me privacy without walking away. Thank you, I said. I asked them to keep looking. Most people stop when the first answer is inconvenient. Most people around me are paid to make inconvenient answers disappear. This time he did not sound proud of the observation. We ate tomato soup and bread at the small dining table while the storm moved east. Nathan did not mention my father's recipe, and I was grateful he understood the difference between remembering something and using it. Halfway through the meal, he set down his spoon. When my father became ill, everyone told me the hotels needed stability, he said. What they meant was that I should never let anyone see the family disagree. So you learn to absorb the disagreement. I learned to solve it privately. And when private solutions stop working? He looked toward the reports on the table. Apparently someone breaks into a consultant's room during a blackout. The humor was dry, but the regret beneath it was real. You cannot repair this by taking responsibility for every choice your mother made, I said. I signed the certification. Then take responsibility for that choice. Do not borrow guilt because it feels more loyal. He studied me for a moment. You make difficult distinctions very quickly. I make them before they become excuses. By 2 a.m, exhaustion had flattened every argument. Nathan carried a blanket and pillow toward the sitting room. The sofa is long enough, he said. For someone shorter. I've slept in worse places. That still sounds like a performance. He looked back at me. What would satisfy you? Use the bed. No. It is your room. And you are here because yours was entered. There is another side. The words landed between us. Nathan went still. We are adults, I said. The bed is large, and we already established the rules. We did. I trust you to keep them. His voice lowered. That may be the most dangerous thing you've said to me tonight. Then don't make me regret it. For a moment, I thought he might agree. Instead, he carried the pillow into the bedroom and placed his jacket across the foot of the bed. The room gets cold near dawn, he said. Use that if you need it. Then he spread the blanket on the carpet beside the bed. He turned away while I removed my shoes and got under the covers, still fully dressed. I did not lock the bedroom door because he was inside it with me, but I kept the bedroom key on the nightstand within reach. The outer suite remained under security watch. When the temperature dropped, I pulled his jacket around my shoulders. The storm softened to rain. "Lumi," he said from the floor. "Yes?" "If the board asks tomorrow, I will tell them the reports were withheld and that my certification cannot stand. That will stop the refinancing vote." "I know. It may cost you the succession." "I know that too." I looked toward his outline beside the bed. "Why are you telling me now?" "Because I don't want you to wake up wondering which version of me is real." I touched the pendant at my throat. "Then make sure the room isn't empty when you choose." Neither of us spoke again. Sometime before dawn, I fell asleep. Then Eleanor used an emergency management key to enter the outer suite. The guard had changed at 6, and Eleanor ordered his replacement to admit her under the chairwoman's emergency authority. Because Nathan was sleeping on the bedroom floor, I had left the inner door unlocked. That was how she found us. Nathan rose from the carpet slowly, stiff from the floor. His shirt was creased, and his hair had fallen across his forehead. He looked nothing like the controlled executive from the ballroom. He did not look ashamed. Eleanor stood with Theo and Aunt Celeste behind her, all three dressed for the charity breakfast. The red key tag hung from her hand. "I asked you a question," she said. Nathan looked at me, then at his mother. "She is not a mistake." The answer came without hesitation. Eleanor's mouth tightened. "Then explain this." I moved the covers aside and stood, keeping Nathan's jacket around my shoulders. "My room was entered during the security breach," I said. "Nathan offered me the only verified secure suite. Nothing happened." Aunt Celeste looked relieved. Theo glanced down, trying not to smile. Eleanor did neither. "Half the night staff saw her brought here," she said. "The board arrives in an hour. Reporters are downstairs." "Do you think the distinction will matter?" "It matters because it is true," Nathan said. "Truth is not the only thing a family in your position has to manage." She turned to me. "You will leave through the service entrance. We will say you were relocated off property." "No." Her brows lifted. I smoothed the sleeve of the jacket. "I will leave through the lobby after I complete the safety handoff I was hired to provide." "You are no longer hired." Nathan stepped forward. "You do not have authority to terminate her hotel contract. I chair the foundation that signed it. And I am the chief operating officer responsible for the property where the breach occurred." Eleanor looked from him to me. "The breakfast begins at 8, she said. "The lenders and the board will be there. You will tell them the outage was caused by the storm, Caleb acted alone, and Ms. Vale's presence here was a security accommodation. Then you will call the entire situation a misunderstanding." Her gaze moved between us. Nathan did not answer immediately. He was not surrendering. He was measuring the cost, but I had spent enough of my life around powerful people to know how damaging a pause could become. Eleanor stepped closer to him. "If you withdraw your certification, the vote stops. 3 hotels could close. Hundreds of employees will blame you. If you defend her publicly, the board will say your judgment was compromised before the vote. Call her a mistake in protocol. Nothing more." I looked at Nathan. He looked back. I would not beg him to choose correctly. "I'll make this easier," I said. I picked up my coat and overnight bag but kept his jacket around my shoulders. "Lumi. I won't be described as a mistake so your family can preserve a lie." "I didn't say I would." "You didn't say you wouldn't." I lowered my voice. "You protected my boundaries last night. Don't erase me this morning to protect your inheritance." He took one step toward me, then stopped. I could see the answer forming, but I would not stand there and help him say it. If he chose the truth only because I remained close enough to reward him, neither of us would know what happened after I left the room. Then I walked past Eleanor and into the vestibule. The lobby was bright with morning light reflected off wet marble. Guests moved toward the ballroom carrying coffee and the confidence of people who believed the disorder had already been contained. I completed the safety handoff with the overnight manager. I documented the failed west exit, the compromised credentials, the emergency override used on my room, and the removal of my printed logs. Then I sent my independent incident report and digital copies to the foundation board, copying the outside counsel and city inspector already notified by hotel legal. Eleanor could end my contract. She could not make the record disappear. I was crossing the lobby toward the revolving doors when Nathan's voice came through the ballroom speakers. Before breakfast begins, there is something the Harper group must disclose. People stopped. So did I. Nathan stood at the podium without his jacket. Eleanor sat at the head table, pale and motionless. Board members looked down as my email and the outside counsel notice reached their phones. Nathan did not soften the facts. He said the hotel had received prior warnings about the access system. Those warnings had not been disclosed to operations, security leadership, or the board. A management override had been used to remove records from a consultant's room during an active incident. His previous safety certification was therefore unreliable. Then he withdrew it. The lender's representatives began conferring at their table. The board secretary stood and announced that the refinancing vote could not proceed. Nathan continued. As Chief Operating Officer, I have exercised my emergency authority to close the East Wing, suspend all management override credentials, and place this property under outside safety control. I have asked the board to appoint an independent group-wide audit. Until that review is complete, I am stepping aside from the succession process. The room filled with whispers. Eleanor rose. Nathan, stop. He looked at her. No. Reporters lifted their phones. A hotel lawyer moved toward the podium. 2 board members called for an emergency executive session. The future Nathan had spent years building changed in front of everyone. Then he looked toward the ballroom doors. Toward me. There is another false story I will not allow this family to tell, he said. The room followed his gaze. Nathan came down from the stage and crossed the ballroom. He stopped several feet away from me, leaving the space between us open. Nothing happened in my bedroom, he said. I slept on the floor because Lumi trusted me to respect her. But she did more than spend one night in my suite. She saw a danger we had ignored. She protected our guests. She preserved evidence after someone tried to remove it. And she refused to let me reduce her to a convenient explanation. The lobby had gone silent. I don't know what title I will hold after today, he said. I do know what I want to be able to defend when the room is empty. My fingers closed around the pendant. I want you in my life. Not as a secret, and not as a scandal I survived. Stay in New York long enough to see whether I can earn your trust after today. He did not ask for an answer large enough to match the audience. He asked for time, and he had already accepted the cost of asking in public. I studied him. I'm not staying at this hotel, I said. A nervous laugh moved through the lobby. Nathan almost smiled. Fair. And I'm not waiting quietly while you decide whether honesty is sustainable. I've decided. You decided today. You'll prove it tomorrow. I will. I stepped closer and folded his jacket over his arm. Coffee, I said. After the inspectors arrive. Relief moved across his face. Coffee. Behind him, the board secretary called Nathan into the emergency session. A lender closed the refinancing binder on the table. Eleanor remained standing, watching the control she had protected move out of her hands. Nathan did not follow me through the doors. He went back to face what he had set in motion. 3 weeks later, the Harper Grand's East Wing remained closed. The city had issued a formal corrective order. The refinancing was being renegotiated under stricter terms, and the board had removed Eleanor from operational oversight while the investigation continued. Nathan had lost the automatic succession. He was still working, but now under an interim board committee that reviewed every decision he made. He met me at a quiet cafe near Bryant Park carrying 2 cups and a folded sheet of hotel stationery. It was a handwritten note. On one side, he had listed every safety change completed that week. On the other, he had written, "Still choosing what I can defend when the room is empty." Rain softened against the cafe windows. Nathan placed his jacket over the back of my chair instead of around my shoulders. This time I did not need protection from the cold. I turned his hand palm up and laced my fingers through his. The 2 cups between us were no longer untouched.